Hello, I hope you're doing well today. My name is Ian Green, and I'm the musician for Music Dreams and also for Ian J. Green, two different artist profiles you can find wherever you stream your music. And today we're going to be looking at Part 5 of Unit 9. That's a supplement to the Intermediate Elementary Music Rudiments course that is written by Mark Sarnecki. It's my pleasure to be here to help provide different types of tutorials on this channel, and I do hope that this information is helpful for you. We are going to be looking at somewhat of a tricky topic related to changing an interval to make it into an augmented interval by changing the bottom note. So let's go over to the shared screen here, and I'm going to actually explain how to work through the materials over here, as you can see on page 42. Now, traditionally, what we want to do as well as part of our training is to always remember where we start from and where we will then move towards. So some of the important things that have been outlined in previous tutorials on intervals is first that you want to make sure to always start with the bottom note as the note to use to count to find the distance between the bottom note and the top note. And then from there, you want to find and write down the size of the interval that you're going to be using. Then that will help to determine if the interval is a perfect interval or a major interval, if it were to be part of the major scale. Then you want to think of the key signature of the major scale according to the bottom note, and then match that to the top note to see if the actual given interval with the given note or the note above matches the same major scale as the bottom note. And if it does not, then it's good to use a keyboard or a piano, if you have one available, to see how the top note has changed in comparison to the major scale that the bottom note uses. So for example, if we were to look at this first example here, we start off on a G and we go up to a D. Now let me switch over to the piano so you can see the keyboard here, and then we'll continue further. So here you can see how G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can go up to D and create a perfect fifth. So this would be a fifth, and it's a perfect fifth because the D is part of the G major scale, which has one sharp. Let's do another one just by labeling the interval. Then we'll come back and I'll explain what they're asking on this question too. So if we start on A flat, and we think of the key signature of A flat major, we have B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So there are 4 flats in the scale. And this interval is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes away. So this is actually a major seventh because the G matches the A flat major scale. Now, something that's interesting is that each of these intervals are already traditional intervals. But now it says name the following intervals, then rewrite them as an augmented interval by changing the lower note. Now, as we may know from before, speaking about augmented intervals, an augmented interval is always created by making an interval larger or bigger. So the size of the interval will get a little bit more larger. Now, traditionally, the last couple of tutorials have outlined questions where we have to change the top note to make an interval larger. But you can also do that with the bottom note too. As long as you know what the first interval is, you will take the bottom note and go away or larger by a half step by moving that interval note down. So if we start off on G, and we have G and D, which is a perfect fifth, we want to move this low G down a half step, but still keeping it as the name G, but going to G flat, which means we're making the interval size larger. Now, it might feel kind of strange to write a flat and then assume that on paper, it looks like it's an interval getting smaller, but you have to always think about the distance of the notes and also how can we make an interval larger or smaller. If we make an interval larger by changing the top note, we will want to have the top note go up, keeping the bottom note the same. But if you want to change an interval by having changing the bottom note, you want to lower the bottom note because then still that size gets bigger. Now let's take a look here. If we want to have G the same here, but we want to change the bottom note by going down a half step from where we are given, we are going to be using an A double flat because we're going to be flattening or lowering that A again. Let's do another example together. We're going to be looking for F and A. Now that is an interval of a third. And specifically, it's a major third because in the key signature of F major, we have one flat, B flat, and A is then part of that scale. Now if we want to create an augmented interval, we would take F and lower it to F flat, which would create that size. And in each of these cases, we would write down AUG or AUG, and then the size of the interval that we want to write. Now, something that is always important to remember when changing an interval and making it augmented or diminished, either by changing the bottom note or the top note, the important thing to remember is we're changing the notes enharmonically. That means that we're keeping the same note name, but changing the accidentals that are included. When I was playing some of those notes, it looked like I was changing to a new key. So I could have played the key of the keys F and A, and then I went down a half step, and then all of a sudden I was playing, instead of F and A, I was going down to E and A. So on the piano, that's what that looks like, but we want to think of the context of the original note that we're changing. So F turns into F flat, but I'm actually playing in E. So that sometimes can be a little bit confusing if you're not quite a pianist, but it's still important to match that on paper and make sure that you're using the correct accidentals to change the notes accordingly. I do hope this tutorial is helpful, and just like any of these tutorials, you're more than welcome to watch the tutorial more than one time just to help unpack all the information that I provide in them. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, have a great day.